Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi guys, welcome to the Enterprise Design and Analysis tutorial, Innovation and Organizational Development Laboratory. Now, we will learn about how to do forecasting using Microsoft Excel. Before we go to the tutorial, we will read the case study first. ABC Company is a textile and yarn company. Before performing this production, the company will conduct market analysis first. This is done in order to determine the amount of production that will be performed in the future. To find out the method used, you can look at the pattern of the company's historical data. If the historical data pattern is relatively stable, the closest approach is the simple average, moving average, and weighted moving average. On the other hand, if the company's historical pattern is relatively fluctuative, the closest method is single exponential smoothing and linear regression. The following shows the amount of demand data and production data of yarn in the last 10 years. Then do the forecasting for the next 3 years using those methods and choose the best method for the 5 methods. First of all, we will do the forecast using the simple average method, which is based on the average of all historical data. To forecast, starting from the second period of actual data, so we get a value of 650 for period 1. After that, to forecast the period 3, it can be done by adding up the first periods and the second period, then we divide it by the number of n or time series used. Therefore, the result is equal to 675. After that, we do it until the next period. After that, to forecast the data is obtained, it will continue to calculate the error value. Why we do need to find the error value? It is because generally a forecasting results contains errors. And to find the error value, it can be done by lessening the actual data with the forecast data. In the following, we will try the second period by lessening 700 by 650 so that we can get an error value of 50. Furthermore, the calculation of MAD requires an absolute value because the error value must be all positive so that there is no negative value on the result of MAD. After getting the absolute error value, now we can calculate the MAD value. By adding the total absolute error value, then we dividing by the amount of forecast data, so that the MAD value for the simple average method is equal to 137.63. For the moving average method, use the formula ft plus 1 equals to xt plus xt minus 1 divided by n. Or we can write it the formula in Excel with the same average as the previous 3 periods. Because the case study is asked for 3 periods, it can be started by filling in the forecast value in the 4th period. In this case, the forecast value in the 4th period is equal to 720. After that, you can drag it until the next period. After we already done all of the calculation in moving average method, we do the same calculations to find the error value, the absolute error value, and MAD as in the simple average method. The next method is weighted moving average method. The moving average method is a method by giving weight to each historical data with the formula in Excel ft plus 1 equals to the weight of 1 times by the historical data plus the weight of 2 times by historical data and the weight of 3 times by historical data, and the value weights must be equals to 1. The formula above is used for the 3-weighted moving average type because the case study uses a weight of 3, which means 0.2, 0.3, and 0.5. For filling in the column, because 3-weighted moving average is required in the case study given, forecasting is carried out starting from the fourth period by multiplying historical data by the requested weight. After getting the result, we can drag it down to the 11th period and calculate the error value, absolute error value, and also the MAD value. The next method is the single exponential smoothing or SES method. For calculation in Excel, we use the formula ft equals to alpha times by at minus 1 plus 1 minus alpha times by ft minus 1. Now, from this formula, we identify the alpha value. If the data pattern is fluctuating, then choose the alpha close to 1 or greater than 0.5. If the data pattern is relatively stable, then choose alpha close to 0 or less than 0.5. Furthermore, to predict the first period from existing historical data, we equate the forecast data value with the first period data value. Then, to predict the second period, we use the formula we mentioned earlier and we just have to apply it to the Excel formula. After knowing the result of the second data forecast, we then drag the data forecast down. And to find the error value, absolute error value, and also the MAD value as the same as the previous method. The last method that will be used is the linear regression method. In this method, we first make a graph from existing historical data to make it easier for us to get the basic formula in linear regression, namely ft equals to a times x plus b. The way to make the graph is by selecting the Insert menu bar, then selecting Insert Line Chart 2D line, then we selecting Line with Marker. After that, we enter the data to be graphed, then we click OK. Then, to find out the y value, we right-click on one of the chart points and select Add Trend Line. After that, checklist the linear part and display the equation on the chart. Then we will get the y function. From this function, we will apply it to all of the Excel formula, and for the x value, we use the number of the period. After the results are obtained, we can immediately drag the results down to find the error value, absolute error value, and MAD value. The same method is used as the previous method. For the graph itself, we can make it like making a graph in the linear regression method, and for the data, we input historical data and all of the forecast data that had been predicted for the 5 methods. To find out which method is the best in the forecasting case, we will implement a double standard. First, we will see which graph is close to the historical demand data graph. And from here, we can immediately see the graph that is close to the historical data. Then, this method is the best method on the case study given. However, if we find more than one graph that is close to the historical data graph, then we must analyze which MAD value is the smallest from several forecasting graphs that are close to the historical data pattern. If in the previous case it was found that the charts in 3 moving average, 3 weighted moving average, and single exponential smoothing method are close to the historical demand data pattern, then we have to see which MAD value is the smallest between those 3 methods. Therefore, the smallest MAD obtained is single exponential smoothing. It can be concluded that the best method in this study is to use the single exponential smoothing method because it's similar the pattern with the historical data given and also have the smallest MAD value. I think that's all for today's forecasting method using the Microsoft Excel. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you could understand the forecasting material well, and see you in another software tutorial. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.